Welcome to the McFeely Mess Podcast at Inforum.com. In-depth conversations and opinion covering a variety of topics from the world of news, sports, and more. Here's Mike McFeely.
Welcome to another episode of the McFeely Mess Podcast at Inforum.com. And this is an attempt to get Dom Izzo of WDAY-TV, Jeff Kolpack of the Forum, a couple of my colleagues here, into the same room at one time and sort of recap the madness that's happened, the mountain madness that's happened over the past 12 weeks / 3 months. Because on February 6th is when we learned on a Friday night, Ross Dellinger reporting that NDSU was in, quote, serious dialogue to join the Mountain West Conference. Saturday, there was a basketball game at the Shack. Everybody had their lips sewn shut that day. Nobody talked to us.
No.
On Sunday, the news actually broke unexpectedly from NDSU's perspective and from the Mountain West perspective, because those damn national guys have agents leaking stuff to them, or the Mountain West or somebody leaking to them. It broke on Sunday. On Monday, it was made official. So on February 9th, it was made official from the Mountain West and NDSU that the Bison were in the league. I've asked these guys to get together and sort of give it a 30,000-foot view now that things have slowed down at least a little bit with spring practice ending the other day for North Dakota State. So I'll start with you, Dom, and I sent you guys these questions yesterday. Overall arching view, overall look at what happened the last 3 months, now that we've had at least a half a day to come up for air. Yeah. What do you think?
I'd say unprecedented always gets thrown around, but this really is, because there's no really past historical team or university we can associate where it's right away. I think we all were under the impression when the story broke that, okay, it's going to be for the 2027 football season. And when you read it closely, no, it's for this fall. And I kept looking back, like, what other schools have had it for FCS to FBS be right away? The answer's none. Like, you couldn't think of anybody. So that, to me, was the wow, like, this is happening, and it's happening now. And it's February. Like, the recruiting has already started for the class of 2027. Like, the season's 6 months away. There's no schedule. There's nothing out there. That, to me, I think, Mike, was my first take. Like, wow, this is happening now, not 2027.
Are you glad, though, they just ripped off the Band-Aid?
Yes, because it would have been a mess. And you and I have talked about this, that Mo State went through their final year in 2024, where they were playoff ineligible. And I'm sure there would have been people dunking all over NDSU. Oh, well, how great they are, but they can't play in the FCS playoffs this year. So that made a lot of sense once I took, maybe the emotion out of it for a second. Like, wow, this is already going to be done. That would have been really awkward come next November, and they wouldn't be eligible for the postseason.
How about you, Jeffrey? What's your overarching thought, having a chance to look back at this for 3 months?
I'm still in shock. Seriously. Yeah. Like, is this really happening? This is happening. This is FBS. This is Mountain West. Because of what you started 7-8 years ago and getting the momentum, at least from a media standpoint, going, in that this program needs to go FBS. There's enough FCS titles. Attendance is going down. Interest is going down. People are leaving at halftime because, frankly, they're bored. And then all of a sudden, so it was like this slow lead up to maybe not. You had a couple sources that maybe thought it was possible, and then bam, just like a body slam in WW World
whatever it is now,
whatever it is now. The Baron von Raschke taking somebody and just boom onto the.
It's like a 1970s reference.
But it was the point taken is it just boom, and so now I'm trying to mentally picture myself and us covering this program heading through FBS. What's it going to be like? Yeah. We need to go through this 1 year before we really understand, I think, what Mountain West and what FBS is. Now, FCS, when this happened in 2004, their first Division I schedule, we didn't know either, but we found out pretty quick that they measured up pretty well to FCS teams. Yeah. Will that be the same now? Will it be different? Will they be 4-8, 7-5? It's just so many unknowns out there. The ambiguity is really off the charts.
Yeah, I thought the suddenness of it, like you said, was what I mean. We had been hearing some little rumors like, oh, there's nah. Then I had one of my sources who had been good to me to that point, totally either lie to me or mislead me and say, no, there's nothing happening. I was ice fishing. It was a Friday.
Yeah.
I was ice fishing. Got back. I was in my garage cleaning fish, frankly, drinking a couple of Grain Belt Premiums, and I get a text from our buddy Tim Purden with the Dellinger tweet.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, wow, it's like, 9 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night or whatever it was.
No, it was 9. It was about 9 o'clock. Yep.
And I'm like, well, my hands are full of blood and guts. I'm a .11 right now in my garage. So I'm texting you guys going, something's happening.
Yep.
And so then it all went from there.
Yes.
But for me, it's been, in addition to like the, whoa, is this really happening? It's way more than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be.
In terms of what?
Okay, NDSU's and FCS, they're really good. Okay, they're in the FBS. All right, go play. The money, the changes to the program they have to make, the TV side of things is completely different from your. I mean, just everything is different. They're no longer the kings of the division they're in. There's so many questions, like Jeff said. Like we don't know. We don't know what we don't know.
I think we all had.
So it's all like
we all had a list. Like we started a document that night of, and we were at 20 story angles that just right off the top, like, okay, they got to answer this, and we're still
not through that list.
There's probably 20 more that we probably added on since the middle of February.
Well, and that from a professional standpoint, it's frankly been a blast.
Yeah.
It's been busy.
No doubt.
And we had the basketball stuff was mixed in there in the middle, and there's other stuff always going on. But it's been pretty steady, for the last 3 months. And
it ain't over yet either.
Let me make clear. The premise of doing this is, we're heading into summer now, but there's going to be stuff happening. It's not. Well, it's going to be
next week.
Jeff's going to have 3 stories a week on something. You're going to have 2 stories a week. I'm going to have a column every 4 weeks about something. I mean, it's not going to stop.
No, the NCAA has the decision next week about if they're going to be NDSU and Sacramento State are going to be playoff eligible, which sounds like that's going to happen. So there's another massive deal that
I think we're pretty sure.
Yeah,
with the oversight committee approving it, I think we think.
Yeah, I'm going to look like a dink if it gets turned down. I've already been on every other radio show saying, "Hey,
done deal.
It's a done deal."
If they're putting out in a press release form, it's going to happen. Like when they did that in the middle of March, and that was the thing when I asked Matt Larson about it. It went, well, no, it's beyond the bowl game. We're going to be eligible for the Mountain West Championship and the college football playoff in 2020. Like right away, there's another something.
And that's a week away. It's going to be another big story. So, okay, start with you, Jeff, on this one. Next question. Anything that's caught you by surprise? Like we always knew this could be a possibility. And we always knew, wow, it's going to be super exciting for everybody involved. But has anything caught you by surprise?
100%. And the whispers we were hearing in early February were, I think, the NDSU administration contacting their big donors and saying, would you be willing to pony up this or this if the Mountain West happens? And so that's where the whispers were coming from, where somebody who knows Tom Blattner probably said, well, some of the important donors obviously were contacted. Okay, so I made a call to Derek Lang, the executive director of Teammakers, not long after this all went down. And he said, after a question, I can't remember what it was, he goes, we raised about $25 million in somewhere around 3 to 4 weeks. And I'm on the phone. I'm going, what? Can you say that over again? Did you say $25 million? That's a lot. So that tells me that some people are on board here from with deeper pockets, obviously, than Dom Izzo in Moorhead, Minnesota.
No doubt.
But he's in TV.
Yes. We all make big money in television.
I think, but let me ask you this, and this is, again, I'm getting sidetracked here.
That's a lot, though, $25 million.
When you saw that number, whoa.
You mentioned the name.
Yeah.
Is that $25 million from one person? Or is it from multiple people?
I don't know that. I don't believe it to be so. I think he put a challenge out to others who have gifted a lot to this program.
From how I understand it, it's not one person.
Okay.
It's multiple people that have got to that number from what I've understand.
So the surprise that they raised that much money, it's just astounding.
In that amount of time, yes.
How about you, Dom?
I would say on the caught me off guard part, that number was there. Again, we had heard the whispers shortly after the Bison lost to Illinois State. It was right before Christmas. I think all 3 of us found hey, there's something percolating here, that this may finally actually have some traction to it. To me, again, I'll go back to my first point that it's happening in 2026.
Yeah,
that to me is like, this is not a year away deal. It's happening this fall, like 4 months from when we're recording this. The Bison are playing their first FBS game with Jacksonville State, and to me, how they got a schedule, Mike, as quickly as they did. They announced it, you said, February 9. We were coming back from Sioux Falls on March 9th. The schedule was done.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. In college football, to have it done in 30 days, that was awfully impressive to me.
Yeah, and I'm with you, by the way, on the ripping the Band-Aid off thing, and I'm glad that Matt Larson and David Cook in the Mountain West just said, you know what, let's not dink around with this year-long road, and just
because you're going to raise scholarships, but you're not going to be eligible for the postseason.
Even if things don't go as well as they hope they go this fall because of just everything being on such a short timeline, it was still the right way to do it. Just get it over with, get out of the Valley, get out of FCS. See you later. For me, it goes back to what Jeff was talking about. It's not just that one number, though. The surprise for me has been this is going to cost a lot of money over time. I mean, if you look at some of the football budgets just in the Mountain West of even the not good programs, like they're larger than NDSU's football budget, and the Bison are going to have to get not just to the low level, but they're doing this. They're doing this not like Missouri State just to be there,
right, and
say we're FBS. They're doing this to compete and win the league, and hopefully, from their standpoint, get mentioned for the chance at the college football playoff.
Yes.
And you can't do that with an FCS football budget. And so, as we've dug into this and we've looked around and talked to people, you're going, wow. And they haven't even ramped up their coaching salaries yet. Like Tim Palsek, I still don't know if we have the contract.
Actually, I asked about that today. It is signed. It's just there's one last particular, and then it's finally.
But if you look at the money that Jeff Choate is making,
yes.
I mean, Tim Palsek, I don't believe is going to be making that kind of money. So all of this is going to be ramped up to a level that's like, wow.
UNLV football spending, you reported, is at $21 million. That's 20 for football only at UNLV is 21.
That's $10 million less than the entire NDSU athletic budget.
Correct.
You go back to the contract. If I were to think about it, when a major clue, and I didn't realize at the time, but I think a major clue was when Tim and Matt Larson agreed on an extension.
Yes.
But they didn't sign it.
No.
And now I look back at it, and again, it was right in front of our face, but we didn't realize it. Why didn't he sign it? Maybe they didn't want to do it twice.
Yeah, but all of us asked about that.
Yeah.
I mean, all of our radars went up.
He was here, and he almost was given the hey,
maybe so,
something's coming.
Yes.
That's why I decided to stay. Is there something? And I asked him point blank on that, and he wouldn't take the bait on it. But I got the sense, and I remember telling you, like, there's something here. Why would he stay?
And I remember after, was it the St. Thomas game maybe, when his name was being mentioned?
That's when it started.
With the Oregon State stuff and the Colorado State stuff. And after his press conference was done in the basement of the Fargo Dome, I went outside so I didn't have to ask the question from the other media, not you guys, the other media. And I said, so what's going on here with Oregon State? And he just goes, you know what? I'm focused on helping the Bison win, and we'll talk about that at a different time. And he goes, but I'm going to have a really good lunch with Matt Larson on Monday. And then he winked at me. And I'm like, okay. And I reported that, but who knows what it meant. But again, looking back at it, you go, okay, there was something cooking. Yep. But, we all thought, well, what's he staying at an FCS for? And he wasn't staying at an FCS. He was staying at an FBS.
He said something to me. He said, I would not want to be on the other sideline when NDSU goes to the FBS. And I thought that one, like, okay, there's something in the works. Yeah, maybe not for 2026.
There's a lot of clues
Again,
there,
I didn't think it was for 2026. I thought for 27. That's when every question I got asked about, like, probably for 2027. Never thought for this upcoming fall. No way.
What's the biggest challenge going forward? Now that we've had a chance again to dig into this for 3 months, look around the G6, look around the Mountain West. What's the new Mountain West?
What you said, money. Like, can they consistently fundraise to get to a spot where they're going to be at that 21 million or more level
without taking media money through 32?
Right. They're not going to get any of the Fox, CBS, CW cash is coming in at all. for the next, as Kolpack mentions, for the next 6 years. Where does that come from to be consistent? They were able to do it at a level at FCS where they were better than everybody else. Can they do it now where they're going to be consistently at the top of the Mountain West is really interesting to me.
I heard a story the other day, and it did not come from Craig Bowl, who was here a couple weeks ago at a practice. It came from somebody else, but I was told that as early as 2006, after NDSU almost beat the Gophers, that Craig Bowl went to Joe Chapman and said, we got to start thinking bigger here because we're going to be really good really fast in FCS. And it's way faster than I thought it was going to be. And
did Joe Chapman go to him after 2009 when they were 3-8 and go, no, about this big?
But they were really good in 06 and 07.
Yes, they were.
They beat 2 FBS teams in 06. So the point is, to Dom's point is, FCS, it didn't take them long to get to where they wanted to be. There was a little dip there, obviously. I don't know if it's going to come that quickly in FBS in the Mountain West.
The outsiders seem to think that. Outsiders seem to think NDSU is going to be really good right away.
Yeah, but they don't know anything.
I know.
They didn't look and see what they lost.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. The outside perspective is they're going to take off.
They're going off past results, which do not ensure future success. How about you, Jeff? What's the what's going to be the biggest challenge going forward for NDSU long term?
Well, long term certainly to be recruiting, and I think with the Division I move from Division II, that really didn't take hold until 2009 class. 2010.
Yeah. Ironically, when they were 3-8, that was the best class in the history of Bison football, in my mind.
And so that was 6 years after the announcement. Now, it can't take that long at FBS. And I think we've seen some pretty good commitments here lately, especially on the offensive line.
Yes.
But can they find that outside receiver? Can they find that Bryce Lance type of guy routinely?
Well, and that's going to be, you can make the argument they just have to recruit like they've recruited for the last 15 years. I don't know. They've had how many draft choices? They've had 5 straight quarterbacks drafted.
18 draft picks.
They've had
2006.
Christian Watson and Bryce Lance.
But several of those guys were unexpected developmental guys. Christian Watson was a punk string bean when he came here. They had no idea he was going to develop into what he was.
Well, Bryce Lance didn't have a catch for 3 years. Yeah.
Joe Haig was 240 when he came here.
Yep. The development part is the big part of that.
Can you continue to find those guys that you can develop?
Off of that, Mike, from what I've gathered from the coaches, they believe that where they can have the most success is still dominating up front, offensive and defensive line. If you've looked at the guys they've recruited for the class of 27, they have 5 linemen already who have multiple either Power 4 or Mountain West offers that they've won on those.
And with the 105 maximum player limit eventually here, Cody Malk doesn't come here. He was a distant walk-on.
That's something they're at, and I know you've talked to Tim about that. That's something they're going to have to navigate. But that, to me, on the recruiting side of this, if they keep hammering on offensive, defensive line, I think they're going to be just fine in this league.
Yep, no doubt. And for me, I think it's sustainability. That's a vague, nebulous term, but they've been able to sustain success in FCS now for 20 years.
Yeah.
They had the down year or two there, but they've sustained it. It hasn't been, South Dakota State with 2 good recruiting classes dominating for 2 years, then sort of coming back to the pack, at least the top of the pack.
Yep.
You've seen a bunch of these FCS teams bubble up for a year or two, and then disappear. NDSU, for long-term success, for fundraising, for recruiting, they have to sustain like they have in FCS and keep recruiting like they have. Matt Entz took a lot of heat around here. The guy could recruit.
Yes.
Matt Entz could recruit. Look at the last 4 drafts. It's all been his guys.
Yes, correct.
And so that they have to keep that up and sustain it for not just this year, but next year, year after, all the way down the road.
Totally.
I think that's going to be the long-term challenge. All right. We're recording this on April 29, 2026. On this day, without knowing really, from my standpoint, the rest of the league too well, really from not knowing too much about NDSU, what do you think NDSU's first season in the Mountain West and FBS looks like?
You want a record?
What does it look like? However you want to define that.
I think it will be successful. I think there's going to be some challenges with teams that have some speed to them. I think the travel element is something that they're going to have to adjust to. I think that's Craig Bohl told us all that. The travel part of this is going to be something that is definitely different. There's going to be night games. There's going to be time getting back where you're already well into Sunday. It's not like driving back from Vermilion or Brookings or Grand Forks. Like you're flying back from Sacramento. You're flying back from San Jose or flying back from Vegas and starting already. I think 8-4 I've constantly had in my head. I think they're going to be just fine. I think Nathan Hayes is poised to be the next really good quarterback. Offensive line, I think, is going to be solid, something you and I were talking about on Hot Mic earlier this week. I think defensively, they could be really, really good there. I think they're going to transition well. Like we've seen other teams transition. I don't think NDSU and Jacksonville State, James Madison come right to mind. I think they're in that class, that they're going to have a successful first year of FBS football.
All right, what do you think, Jeff? Starting, fall camp and the first game is August 29th?
Yes, it is.
What does the first season look like?
Here's the thing about the Mountain West. The teams that departed for the Pac-12 won every one but one conference title.
Yep.
And the league started in 1999. I believe UNLV broke through 1 year. Everybody else that won a league title in the Mountain West is gone.
Which is mostly Boise. Yeah.
Mostly Boise State was the king.
Yeah.
Yep,
San Diego State was good for a couple years, too.
Right.
Yep.
But they're gone.
Yep.
And so now you have a bunch of programs who have not won a title at the FBS level, sans UNLV, for 1 year. So I don't know if it's going to be FBS Pac-12 material. I mean, there's some programs there that are just not very good.
And they haven't, let alone contend for a conference championship, Mike, haven't contended for a bowl game. Like Nevada, UTEP, they're not good.
New Mexico's in a rare success pattern here right now.
New Mexico was bad for a long time. And Eck did a heck of a job.
So, okay, saying that being said, NDSU, if they have last year's team going into this year's, I say maybe 9-3, something like that. But I think there are so many question marks. Corners, we don't know really how they're going to react. Receivers, new starting quarterback, new starting running back. So I would say 7-5 would be a very successful year.
Yeah, and I'm more with Dom. I guess I think 8-4 is kind of the number that I've been looking at, just looking at the schedule and trying to make up in my head what. But there's one thing is NDSU. I think they have to continue to play the same style that they've played for the last 15 years. I don't think they can try to be something else, and they shouldn't try to be something else. And I don't think they're going to be with what we've heard from the coaches that. And Matt Entz told me that. Craig Bohl told us that where they can get the advantages up front.
Yes.
And so I think maybe we're underplaying that aspect of it, that they might be really, really good and they can play away in a way that kind of keeps maybe the ball out of the hands of some of these.
Does the power run game come back?
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Hawaii's going to run stuff that you just don't see in the Valley.
Air Force does.
Air Force is totally different than what you see in the Valley.
Nevada going to the spread.
Nevada going to the spread. San Jose State doing some of that stuff.
Vegas has some athletes, last I heard.
I mean, right, but it's just more the style of play doesn't really fit what they are or who they've been. And so there's just going to be some of the challenges that you mentioned. I think 8-4. I think the fans are going to be really excited. Not maybe so much for Fordham, but I think the Jacksonville State game is going to be really fun. I think the Wyoming game is going to be fantastic.
Yes.
And I think we're going to see some of it. Won't be like it was in 2014 or 2015. I think those days are gone.
Yep.
But I think there's going to be a renewed energy from the fan base. And I mean, I'll be honest. There's been a renewed energy from me since February 9th. Like at the end of last year, I'm going, what is, St. Thomas 65-7 or whatever the hell it was. Yep. It's like, my God. Yep. And now I'm like, okay, let's see what's happening. Yep. And just from the fans that I've talked to at bowling, they feel the same way. It seems like to me, like, okay. I talked to a guy the other day. He's like, I don't care if they lose more games. I just hope they're competitive games that I can stand and cheer and stick around for the whole game. And they say that now. Correct. But it can't get. But 8-4 this first year will be just fine.
And which also would mean a pretty decent bowl game as well, as we found out that it's not. There's an opportunity here to go to a nice location and play in a postseason bowl game, which was not, again, guaranteed. When we all were leaving that press conference on February 9th, and Matt Larson saying we're going to immediately appeal to be eligible. I think, well, that's probably pie in the sky kind of talk. And now here we are. It's not only likely, it's going to happen if they win that many games.
And a key to that, because I was one of the people who talked to Matt after that press conference, and he said that. And I went back and said, well, look, Jacksonville State appealed.
Denied.
Missouri State appealed.
Yep. James Madison.
I think James Madison did, whatever, Delaware.
Yep.
But in a story that Jeff wrote, talking to the St. Thomas AD, which really, it wasn't a one-to-one comparison, but it sort of got to the is it Eston?
Phil Eston.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He told Jeff, maybe the way to go is to change the rules.
The rule, yep.
And bingo, that's exactly
not the
what
appeal,
they did.
right?
Yeah, don't appeal, just change the rules.
Blow up the rule.
And Matt Larson
did that.
Worked hard at it, and they're going to change the rules, and it's going to, I think, work out pretty well for NDSU.
I'm going to make a prediction on my homecoming column. Cowboy loud. FBS is going to have to need a new standard of noise, replacing Georgia's Southern loud or Northern Iowa loud.
Okay.
Cowboy loud.
All right. Okay. Well, that's all right.
File it away.
Yeah, we'll see.
By the way,
I've seen a 95% approval rate of FBS. I think it's just a gut feeling of mine.
Yep.
But the people I run into, and it's been plenty, and people are talking about it, I would put the approval rate at 95%.
Yeah, I mean, once it happened, I mean, we've talked about this before, and we're kind of getting off the rails here, but we went from, I think, when we first started talking about this in 2020 or 2021, whatever it was, when Matt Entz called me and, hey, maybe you want to think about this. I think at that time it was about 30-70, 35-65 people wanted to stay in FCS.
Yes, totally.
By the time this announcement happened, it was 80-20. Once it happened, I think it might even be closer to 100%. I've heard no. You hear the chirping from South Dakota, you hear the chirping from Grand Forks, but among Bison fans, I haven't heard anybody say this is dumb.
No,
nobody. No,
nothing on that.
And I even saw somebody that's told me, you know what, I wasn't really that fired up about it. He goes, I didn't know where you're coming from on this all these years. Yeah. I was getting sick of you writing about it so much. But he goes, now that it's happened, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so I think there's been some of that.
There's so much that hasn't happened yet in terms of, and guys, I'm a schedule nerd. That's to come too. Huh? There are going to be Power 4 opponents on the schedule in the not too distant future either.
And there's going to be better G6 teams
yes.
too. I keep throwing out the example of Memphis or North Texas or James Madison for a home and home.
Tulsa.
I mean, this schedule was put together in 3 weeks or a month or whatever it was. So
Sac State will be good too, by the way. I think Sacramento State, who's doing this with NDSU, will be just fine.
You want a super duper hot take?
Go for it.
Sac State wins the MAC.
Wow.
No, that's not. I agree.
Let me have my hot take.
Sorry.
Shush over there.
Flat out wins it?
I'll still start with you.
This year?
Okay.
Sac State wins the MAC.
Okay. Got it.
Mark it down.
We're going to say a reason why, or
the MAC's.
Bingo. Any couple of good teams.
Yeah, there are.
But largely the MAC is just not good. Not good at all.
No.
Jeff, so any regrets? I mean, anything where you've kind of, at any point in the last 3 months, you've kind of went,
zero.
No,
I don't think so. And one thing we didn't touch on is the recruiting footprint, where there are no G6, and I'm on this bandwagon a lot. The closest G6 programs are Wyoming to the west, Tulsa to the south, Missouri State to the southeast,
Northern Illinois to the east.
And then to the west is Western Michigan, or the east is Western Michigan.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a huge footprint, guys. Huge. And I presented that question to Tim Paulsik a couple months ago, and he goes, I'll be curious to see if we can take advantage.
Yeah.
That's a huge
deal
there.
all these states that don't have a G6, Nebraska, Iowa. Iowa.
Iowa doesn't.
No, Iowa does not.
Nope.
Kansas.
Nope.
But
South Dakota.
I still think those
Minnesota.
still think the top FCS teams, just like NDSU did and South Dakota State did for a lot of years, they were still able to peel off some kids from some of those programs.
Certainly from the MAC. Certainly from the Mountain.
And NDSU's a different animal because it's NDSU. But I mean, there's been a couple of kids that NDSU wanted that frankly, Eric Schmidt and that group up there has taken a couple of kids. So
and South Dakota State got a couple as well.
I think to your point, Jeff, once it gets rolling here a little bit, once people, this has again happened really quick, and once they're able to They have their general manager guy now. I think we're going to see fewer and fewer of those kids going to these other places. How about you, Down? Any point where you've said, I don't know?
I would say it's completely personal, but also professional because we're not going to be able to do the games anymore. And I think that's the television side of it is where I always point to. That's going to look vastly different this year, that people are just used to turning on Channel 6 and watching the games. That's not going to be the case. I've loved doing the play-by-play for the last 5 years. Hopefully we get to do a couple. But that, to me, Mike, the excitement of it was then I felt like, wow, that's going to be totally different because everything's going to be different on that going forward. And that's going to be an adjustment for fans that every week, well, it's 12 days out, they'll find out what network has the game and when they're playing. That's completely different. For the last 20 years, we've known the schedule 6 months in advance. You could plan it out. That is not the case anymore. There's going to be games on Friday. There are going to be games played at 9 o'clock or later. They're going to be on 4 separate networks. All of that is going to be – it's not a regret. It's only a regret for me personally.
No, I get it. But it also, as you said – that's going to be a big adjustment for the fans. I mean,
totally.
Really big adjustment.
Totally. Especially for the age bracket, I'll say it, for 60 and over that are used to watching. Yes. It's going to be like out of left field.
That's another thing Entz told me. If you remember there for a while, he was all over the Mountain West and da-da-da. And then he kind of said, well, maybe the AAC is a better place.
Yes.
And Matt told me one of the reasons why was because they played Arizona at, was it a 9 o'clock?
10
o'clock.
10 p.m. Central.
He said, the amount of emails, phone calls, and personal interactions I got from people, and he said mostly old people, going, what are you playing at 10 o'clock at night for? He goes, that made me rethink it, that, boy, maybe the Mountain West would not be good for our fans. But beggars can't be choosers.
You got to take what you got.
The American had no interest in North Dakota State.
I will say the deputy commissioner, John Sullivan, who was here, when I asked him that, said now with the CW into the mix, that they could go all day. They could play a game because
they want to go all day.
There's 2 teams in the Central Time Zone. You could play at 11 a.m.
Part of the reason why they got NDSU is because it's another team in the Central Time Zone. So they could have a noon kickoff and be on the CW or whatever and have it during the day.
So you could have a noon, you could do it at 3, you could do 7 and 9.
Hawaii! Fly here and play at 11 o'clock in the morning, which is 4 a.m. your time, you rainbows.
Craig
works both ways.
They get back at 1 Sunday afternoon, p.m.
Yes.
p.m.
Just that part, Mike, will be just a minor personal regret. Not minor, it's a personal regret of mine, but I think that's going to be really different going forward.
And there's been a couple times for me where I thought, this is going to be. They are playing better teams. It's not the SEC, like I like to say, but they're going to play better teams. It's going to be weird travel. They're going to have to, what if they're not that good these first couple of years? I'm going to have to go in the witness protection program, and maybe this is a mistake to do this because they're not going to win 10 games minimum every single year. Yeah. And I've had flashes of that going like, God, maybe I didn't think this through the last 5 or 6 years because what if the whole NDSU football brand just gets blown up because they're 8-4 every year? I mean that's not the same as being 11-1 and winning national championships.
Expectations have to change, absolutely, on the outside. Expectations have to change for the fan base. But I would say predicting anything in this sport is folly because we know it's going to. There's massive change coming for college football down the road, and at least NDSU's in the party. That's all we've talked about for the last 5 years.
They're thinking ahead.
Get in the dance, and they are there now. Yep. The teams that are still in FCS they are on the outside looking in of what's going to happen. At least North Dakota State is in the party. They just got an invite.
The price of business went up.
You got that right.
And it's going to continue to go up, by the way. All right, we covered a lot of ground there. Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will do this again sometime soon. This has been the McFeely Mess Podcast at Inforum.com. Smash that like button or something. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the McFeely Mess Podcast at Inforum.com. For more podcasts and columns, head to Inforum.com and search Mike McFeely.